So before this video starts, I just want to say that I am not trying to prove any religion wrong. Everyone is entitled to their own belief and they can think what they want. So without further ado, this is the 4D theory. Now, religion has been around for thousands of years. People believe and practice in many different types all around the world. One thing that most of these religions have in common, however, is that there is a god or gods that is the final cause of all causes that created the universe itself. So this could mean that people believe that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Omnipotence means that God is in total control of himself and his creation, while omniscience is a state of possessing all the knowledge there is. And omnipresence means that since God's power and knowledge extend to all parts of his creation, he himself is present everywhere. So going back to the idea that God is the final cause of everything and that he is an eternal and timeless being, we must know that there must also be something which is the cause of motion and of change in everything else, but is itself unmoved and has no other cause of motion. For that which moves and is moved by something else is intermediate, and if this goes on to infinity, there will be no first mover and consequently no intermediate mover. And since those who maintain the existence of such a series cannot say what it is that moves the first mover, they must admit that there is something which moves without being moved, being eternal, substance, and actuality. I just quoted Aristotle, by the way. And for anybody scratching their heads right now, this means that Aristotle is arguing for the existence of an unmoved mover, which serves as the ultimate cause of motion and change in the universe. Now, why is this so significant, you may ask? Because God is a force beyond space-time and our understanding, meaning we can't comprehend how we even got here. We can't even fathom it. We can't even tell how the weather is going to be the next day. But wait a minute. Space-time. What is space-time? Alright, so there's a lot to talk about with 4D, but let's talk about the basics. So 1D is literally just a line, while 2D you have length and width, and obviously 3D is length, width, and height. For 4D, in physics, the concept of four-dimensional space-time arises from Einstein's theory of general relativity. This theory treats space and time as interwoven components of a single entity called space-time. So to answer the question, space-time is the fabric of the universe that is curved by mass and energy, thus making it the unseen force that we call 4D. So right now you're probably asking the question, how could we exist in a fourth dimensional universe when we live in a 3D world? Here's an example that can help. So let's say we draw two stick figures on a piece of paper. They live in the second dimension. And this is obviously because the second dimension is length and width. Now what we're going to do is draw a wall in between these guys. And the question is, are they able to see each other? Well, these stick figures are in the second dimension, so the answer is no. But as three-dimensional beings, we can see both of them. We can see how thick the wall is, and we just know everything. And because of that, these beings would only be able to perceive objects that exist within their two-dimensional world. And in theory, going back to our 3D world, this is why we can only perceive 3D objects and not anything higher. But we know that we exist within a higher dimension because space-time is all around us. We just can't see it or perceive it. It's beyond our comprehension. Sound familiar? Alright, so this is where we start connecting the dots. We've established the properties of a god in the fourth dimension. Also, I'm not trying to say that God is the fourth dimension itself. I'm just saying that the fourth dimension could be a way to prove that something is out there that is the final cause, that the universe is created by a higher being. Anyways, if there's something that exists in the fourth dimension, it would be able to see us, know everything about us, and be present everywhere. And this has led to speculation that God is a higher dimensional being that is able to transcend dimensions. And there are scriptures and religions around the world that have backed up this claim, such as biblical, Islamic, and Hindu and Buddhist texts. For example, in passages of the Christian Bible such as Psalm 139:7-10 explains, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there." This has been used to suggest that God transcends dimensions and is omnipresent, including dimensions beyond our physical reality. Not only this, but in Islam, the Quran often refers to Allah as the Lord of the worlds, which some interpret as encompassing not only the visible universe, but also unseen dimensions or realms. Along with these two scriptures, Hindu scriptures such as the Vedas, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Upanishads, as well as the Buddhist sutras, contain descriptions of higher states of consciousness and metaphysical realms that could be interpreted as dimensions beyond our ordinary perception. Using all this evidence we have, we can also maybe determine the shape of the universe as well. Think of it like this. Imagine the universe were a 3D sphere. The surface of it would be two-dimensional, and there would be two-dimensional beings living on it. A fourth dimensional sphere is called the hypersphere, and basically the surface of the hypersphere is three-dimensional rather than a two-dimensional surface on a three-dimensional sphere. So, hypothetically, we could be living on the surface of a hypersphere. And lastly, a final detail to add is if the universe has positive curvature, it would be closed like the surface of a sphere, but in higher dimensions. In this scenario, if you were to travel far enough in any direction, you would eventually return to your starting point, similar to walking around the Earth and ending up where you began. So basically, the big takeaway of this whole theory is what we perceive as God is actually from a higher dimension, and that is why we cannot comprehend anything about how we got here in the first place. This higher being would possess the qualities of omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence because of the fact that they are in this higher dimension. And due to the universe being constructed of four-dimensional space-time, we could be living in a closed universe, or in other words, in a hypersphere. And that is the 4D theory. And of course, this is all just speculation, but every once in a while it's cool to self-question on how we got here.